Welcome to No Clip. I'm Chad Rowan.
I'm JJ Artemis.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today we're going to be talking about Earthbound, which is a game that was released in 1994, 1995 in the US, on Super Nintendo, and it was developed by Ape Inc. and HAL Laboratories and published by Nintendo. Now, Earthbound's a JRPG, and it's one that, and I'm pretty sure with you as well, Andy, we both started previously, and then just never finished.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, both of us had started the game and not finished it at previous points in our lives, and just finished it for the podcast this past couple of weeks. JJ,
Yeah.
you've never played Earthbound.
Yeah.
Didn't really know a whole lot about the game.
And I can see why you quit early, and it's really unfortunate considering everything you were working up to sort of
I got
builds on itself
pretty
late.
far into the game, so I had some knowledge of the experience.
How many party members? I'm curious when your breaking point was.
I had gotten to poo.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't a breaking point, I just put it down and then it didn't come back to
I
it.
only quit because I lost my save file, and
Yeah.
I was like 3/4 of the way through the game.
So like a weakening point then? You're
No.
right, there is a distinction between those two things.
It wasn't anything. It wasn't me, like, falling out. This happens to me with games all the time. I'll, like, start a game, and then I won't play it for a couple of days or whatever, and then I just won't ever pick it back up accidentally. Yeah, Dying Light was a game I tried to play. Got, like, 6 hours in, stopped playing, uninstalled it.
Come to think of it, I did that with Alan Wake also.
So, knowing that you hadn't played this game before, I want to, like, open the floor for you to begin the conversation, because I feel like you probably have some questions, like, what the hell did I just play? And the like.
Chad, I felt very old the whole time that I was playing Earthbound.
It's a game that evokes the feeling of being a child, so it makes sense for you to feel old while playing it.
But it also feels old. The game felt to me like I was playing through a video game form of an old person giving me like a fairy tale. Until the end, of course. But in the early parts, I got a very strong, like, oh, daddy's reading me a story vibe, but the story was plastered over fucking old mechanics from a bygone era that I'm an impatient man about now.
Okay. This is going to be the weirdest podcast ever. And not just because of how weird this game is. So, as you guys know, I hate JRPGs.
Oh, yeah.
I never play them.
That's why I was stunned that you even tried before.
Yeah. Well, I tried because of it was before I had, like, developed, like, hard lines to what I was, like, cool with. And when I had, like, more time in my life that I could just play a game for 20 hours and for kicks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the mechanics of this game that much. There are things that are obviously really slow and could do with a little bit of retooling.
Yeah.
But the whole, like base mechanical systems of this game were lifted from, like, Dragon Quest and games like that. So, I mean,
This is
the argument that we made with Pokemon, where it was like they just took something, like, the idea that they were pushing was the selling point, not the base mechanics. Those are just there to propel the game forward as a game.
And I'm not, like, a super, like, knowledgeable, like, JRPG historian or anything. But, like, I think you gotta give them credit, because they added things like an auto-fight button. If enemies are, like, way weaker than you just beat them automatically and got the experience. And they had the countdown, like, health system. Like,
Yeah.
so they tried to mix things up, and they tried to make things a little more convenient.
Yeah,
They did.
In those instances specifically, I think they succeeded with, like, flying colors. Like, I'm amazed that auto fight and auto win are not, like, just basic staples of the genre in 2017.
Well, they're not staples of the genre because oftentimes in JRPG systems, it depends obviously on a game-to-game basis and what their goals are, but their goal isn't to get the fights out of the way. Their goal is to try and make the fights interesting.
Right.
But Earthbound was still working at a time where we just weren't as developed enough in that, so that the alternative solution of just giving us the option of just fucking ignoring this was
fights were
appreciated.
it was impossible to make fights, like, truly interesting. And we talked about Chrono Trigger and how the combat system, and that was also good.
Right.
In comparison to, like, whatever the baseline RPG, like Final Fantasy 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I have beaten. I have beaten 1. I couldn't touch 2. I've gotten through 3, and I've dabbled in others, and obviously I'll play all the 3D ones. But like the best comparison point is totally Chrono Trigger, because they came out in the same year in the U.S.
Right.
So they're absolutely sort of competitors in that regard. But on the biggest thing that hit me mechanically, and with the game that I didn't like in comparison of its peers, is I didn't like how long it took you for the game to give you another party member. Because I don't really think that JRPG mechanics
work well when you're just one guy.
Yes.
I can see that.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think the hardest part in the game for me is going to the happyism cult town, and you go through the area with the broken bridge and all the UFOs. That's so hard to get through with just NES. It's so annoying.
That area is just largely because of the single party member limit, and also because of just
Exploding trees.
Yeah, the Guardian Oaks. That area just is one of the hardest in the game, and it's so front-loaded because you just didn't have the progression needed to make things easier. There wasn't strategy, really, to do. It was either use, like, a heal, a hit, or, like, a stronger psi attack, and that's all you had.
Yeah, there isn't really, like, a choice in combat until you're able to get, like, more than one action per turn that you can manipulate.
Yeah. When do you get Psi Rockin'?
I don't remember.
Neither do I.
It's pretty it's
early.
before that.
Yeah.
But
you have it at that point.
Frankly, the progression of this entire game, for pretty obvious reason, just sort of, like, molds together into just this weird fucking pot that's just making all sorts of, like, gurgling. It's like when you, like, put, like, food coloring into something that you're stirring, but like, all the different memories that I have of this game are, like, different kinds of food coloring, and then you put them together, and they all just sort of morph over time in my head.
Into, like, a swirling red, like, fetus shape.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Tiramisu.
Yeah, I would have to say, the pacing of this game at the beginning is really slow.
It's abysmal.
Yeah. Basically, like, the game feels like it starts after you get Paula.
I know.
I don't know. See,
or like when you show up at the happyism village, that feels like where the game like really becomes.
Well, 'cause the village in Happy Town or Happy Town, whatever it's called,
the Blue Town.
Yeah, in that area is like that is one of my favorite areas in the game, but it's not because I'm like pressing A on cultists.
Right.
It's because it is such a like bizarre thing to run across.
Everything that's good about this game is about its tone progression.
And we know how much NoClip likes a tone piece.
This game, is definitely about the experience and about like the different things that happen within the game. And it almost feels like this is like an experimental indie game made like 20 years before its time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard like a lot of things, a lot of terms, a lot of isms thrown out about Earthbound in like my trying to figure out what people generally think of this game.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time when you hear people talking about Earthbound, there are a lot of like people refer to it as like a cult hit and like a shit game, and the game NES is from. It's either people who are very much into the game or people who are like tertiarily aware of it.
Right. In my experience, the vast majority of people know about Earthbound but have never touched it ever.
Yeah, and it really is. I've heard people say that this game is like a postmodern game because it's a game that it made a video game, but it clearly acknowledged what it was making and tried to not do the same things. I don't necessarily know that I would give it that high of a, like, I wouldn't be like, this is postmodernism in a video game. It's definitely, like, deconstructivist.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely,
that's about as far as I'd go.
Like, you're going from the normal starting point in RPGs of its time all had you starting as like a guy with a sword killing like evil little goblin creatures, but now in this time you're like you're trying to like hit a happy tree with a baseball bat, and there's like crazy synth music and the weird background features.
I love the like battle screens, by the way. They're so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like the game does. We'll give you a taste of the mechanics in our conversation, but way later when we'll get into it like seriously. I'm just gonna divert here. But this game is aggressively weird, and whenever it takes like these fitful stabs at normalcy, it almost seems like it's doing it as a joke. Like, it is very much like it doesn't want you to approach it like it is something that is like benign. It wants to seem weird, and it's got this purpose behind it in a way that it's like Lynchian, but this game doesn't like ape Twin Peaks like something like Deadly Premonition does.
I think it's like a progression. It starts out more kind of normal and just like a little bit charming, and how like it's silly.
Yeah, you're like taming dogs. And stuff.
And then it ramps up and it gets weirder and a little weirder and kind of surreal. And then like it starts to like throw in like these darker, depressing themes underneath. And it's that's what really works about it, is like how it builds up that progression of the tone.
Yeah, you've just got to you've got to find a way to have the patience to reach that point where you can sort of understand it. It was even harder for me because I'm not taking this as an actual criticism against the game. It took me so long to find the game funny. I don't know why. It's so weird, and it clearly has like a style on its own that it's just sort of flubbing around and forcing all up into your spots. But
there were some. I mean, yeah, I don't know. There are a couple of things because the game has its own sort of juvenile sense of humor.
Yeah.
But like it's where the game is like funny and where the game is weird are kind of, it overlaps, and that's what they are kind of going for with the tone. And I feel like even like in Annette and just talking to your mom and like from like literally the first point, you can tell that like people, they are written not as to seem as though something is off.
Yes.
It's not correct. Like the first thing you do is your mom tells you to like she's like, oh, you're gonna go check out that meteor, like at least put clothes on first. And it's like, you think it should be like, don't go look at the meteor.
Go back to bed.
Because it's dangerous.
Yeah, all of the adults seem like intuitively aware that like you're going on like a quest to save the world, and tons of people seem to be aware of like Giygas as an entity, even though you as the player never are from start to finish.
This is probably something that doesn't need to be said, because over the past like week or so that I've been like reading and watching like commentaries on Earthbound, lots of people always like, this seems like the common thing. We have not played Mother 1 or 3.
Yeah.
Because apparently nobody has, because they've never been released in the West. So like it would be, well, Mother 1 is available on the eShop now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was I think April of last year.
Yeah, so like someone like found the U.S. translation that already existed and like actually like published it and put it out.
Yeah, Giygas has like a story in Mother 1. So it would make some amount of sense that people in Earthbound know about him, but I feel like the experience was better where he was just like an entity that everyone knew about, but you didn't.
Yes.
Because you can assume that Ness did as well, and that you just didn't. Which is...
Or it might be trying to reinforce that feeling like you're a child, and like adults treat you like a child, and they don't tell you things.
Right.
But the adults, by and large, are also pretty incompetent in the game.
Yeah.
Which is... You know, there's some bleed over between whether that's just them being weird or them being terrible. I don't know.
That's kind of like a cartoon thing, though. Like in South Park or The Simpsons, the adults are always stupid.
Yeah. As an example of the sort of hard time I had with the tone before it really started to ramp up to interesting places. Like, the first time you see those guys, the guys...
Runaway 5?
Yeah, on the shirt that you're wearing.
Yeah.
The first time they play, I just vividly remember sitting there. This was like the second session that I'd ever had playing the game, sitting down, and I was just like, what am I doing with my life? This is like a minute long. Why am I watching terrible cartoon people do like a MIDI jazz show that I can't interact with at all? Like, none of this means anything. I just walked into this building.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
You can imagine... Good.
I was just going to say, I feel like this game, especially in the early parts, kind of plays like a Saturday morning cartoon. And I think, probably because of the fact you played it for the cast, probably negatively affected your experience. Because, like, I think this game's more enjoyable if you can, like, take the time to, like, actually talk to all the people and just, like, sit back and then, like, take in its atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah, letting
And its tone.
letting it sort of just exist and sort of like boil on the stove for a while
Yeah,
would have been
'cause,
beneficial.
like, I think that, like, when you get to that part, you're supposed to, like, with the Runaway 5, you're supposed to be, like, so into what's going on that you're just like, yeah. Like, while you watch it, you're just like, watch the Runaway 5.
There are several moments in this game where it embraces this, like, sort of patience that it expects the player to have.
Yeah.
And it does it in a way that... So, Runaway 5 show, the second Runaway 5 show.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you could just watch them, like, 100 times if you wanted to.
Yeah, if you keep going in and talking to them.
Yeah, they'll just
They'll
keep
keep
playing when you come out. And, like, I think the biggest one and the most obvious one is waiting for the password for Belch's base.
Yeah.
You have to stand behind the waterfall for 3 minutes. I probably come off as the kind of person who would be really irritated by that.
You do.
But the just the sheer amount of time, the fact that it's literally 3 entire minutes, and the fact that you know, as like the player of this game, especially at that point, that the game has sort of a winking, like, wouldn't it be funny if we actually made you sit here for 3 minutes, that I actually, like, I thought that was genius. Like, I thought that was really funny. I just put the controller down, obviously, and just walked away.
Yeah, yes.
Because I knew, but that is just really, that is inherently humorous to me.
Yeah, I agree it is funny, but that kind of stuff really fucks with me. Like, if there's anything where you have to, like, leave the controller, you just let the game sit for a couple minutes, I'm always, like, super paranoid. Did I bump a button after, like, I hit A the last time? I'm gonna have to, like, start it over.
The 3 minutes turns into, like, an hour.
Yeah, like, I always do that, and, like, it really bothers me.
You could tell the Saturday morning cartoon comparison is apt because lots of moments like this 3 minute gap sort of operates under the assumption that the audience has like almost no respect for their time in any way.
Yeah, it feels like it's aimed at like younger people in that respect, like people who can like take the time to really enjoy the game.
Yeah, like 2 hours a day, every day for the foreseeable future. You can have Earthbound, and you can just sort of immerse yourself in it. This felt like, as much as this comparison is often overused, this felt like a weed game for me. It's like either I was supposed to be like 12 or have weed, and that was the only options. It would have forced me to like stop like thinking so much about this actively, because the more, which is the complete opposite of what I normally do for cast games. I'm normally sitting around fucking taking notes and like pausing all the time and being really cerebral. I approach it in the same, which is part of the reason that I just keep approaching games through this lens. Because the mechanics weren't really engaging, but the tone was, I had to keep going, just sitting there and sort of letting myself sink into my chair and being like, yeah, Earthbound. And like letting time just sort of dilate past me in order to enjoy what was going on.
Yeah, that's the thing that I found took me the longest in this game were the things that I didn't expect to. Because when it comes to, because the game has like discrete dungeons basically. It's set up in a way that is pretty familiar to anybody who's played a JRPG, because you have towns, dungeons, and they basically just separate each other with the occasional like route path. And it was always things like where I just had this like crazy wild hair up my ass and was like, I gotta do this with this item and see if anything comes of it, and would just go around and like be experimenting with stuff and be like, it's been an hour, like what happened here?
Yeah, That was my biggest problem with it, but I was kind of blaming that on the fact that I'd played the game before. Because, like, I was trying to, like, really wanted to get back to where I had stopped previously. And so I kept, like, getting ahead of myself and thinking, like, oh, I gotta go do this thing. And then, like, that was actually, like, 3 steps down the line, and I'm, like, running around trying to do something I can't do yet.
Right.
So, like, I ended up making it take even longer for myself. But there are parts where, like, you just have to go around and talk to everybody or go to the hint guy to find out, like, what you're supposed to do.
Wait,
Yeah.
which guy is the hint guy?
There's a guy
In every town.
pretty much in every town and sometimes in other places where it's convenient that has a sign that says hint on it. You can go talk to him. He's like the fortune teller in Zelda, and he'll be like, why don't you go check out this thing?
Yeah.
And he'll, like, push you in the right direction.
Okay.
Yeah. I use the hint guy probably every time that I started the game after, like, not playing it for a day or whatever.
Yeah, I wanted to get through the game in a timely fashion, so whenever, like, I didn't know what to do, I just went to the hint guy.
Right.
It's curious because you can tell from the way that they're sort of joking about it and like writing hint on the sign and everything that they are not expecting him to be the player's first choice. They're expecting him to be like the Sheikah Stones in modern Zelda games, like the thing that you do when you're out of ideas.
He's also a member of the hint bureau who have like a sign and they charge you for the hints.
Yeah,
So.
you had to pay for it, and he's usually, like, out of your way. Like, it's usually, like, tucked off in the corner of a town. Is where, like, his house
In
is.
Forsyth, he's like, he looks like a homeless person.
Yeah, he's just, like,
he's
in a park. Yeah,
holding the hint sign behind a building,
Yeah,
and you have to go pretty far away from like anything useful to find.
Well, he's right behind the hotel.
Right. He's
So
behind the hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to... He's off screen if you're at the front of the hotel.
It's a place that you wouldn't really think to go to.
Right.
But what I'm meaning is that because they're like lampooning this like hint guide concept, it sort of shows that their assumption is that you're just going to talk to everyone and like that's going to be your default interaction with the game.
Yeah.
Which they kind of have to because the interactions in this game just degrade so fast into random nonsense. Like, I couldn't even begin to tell you, like, the narrative through line of all the stuff that I had to do to get places. Like, none of it's interrelated at all. It's all just, like, tracks and madness. And...
It took me a little while to, like, fully grasp what you were saying, because I feel like the general through line of this game is pretty clear and straightforward. There are tasks that you have to perform that are entirely disconnected.
That's
not only from the plot line, but also from like logic.
Yeah. On top of that,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Anything could just like send you down a rabbit hole of distractions. So it's like easy to forget what you were doing.
Yeah, like in order to progress through Forsyth, you have to.
Oh, that's like one of the worst parts.
You
It's
have
like
to
figuring
go-
out how to progress through Forsyth.
Yeah, you have to go back to a dungeon, complete it, come back, go to a whole other plane of existence, like go give a bunch of shit to a bunch of monkeys, and then give something that produces trout-flavored yogurt to a maid to allow you to get to the top floor of a building. Like, you can't connect those dots. It doesn't make a logical, linear sense.
And that reminds me, like a lot of the time, this game does something that like older games used to do, whereas like you're running around to the area that you're in, talking to everybody, trying to figure out how to progress, and then the way to progress is just to do that for a while, give up and leave, and find out leaving was the thing you needed to do to trigger the next thing.
Right.
I hate that.
It's kind of a way to get you to, I don't know, interact with all the people, because that's where the focus of the game design was put.
I don't like that kind of road blocking.
I guess.
I also don't like forced interaction when a lot of the characters, and then this was more front-loaded earlier on, if I remember correctly, aren't really characters, but are only winks at the camera. Like, there's that dog in the very first pharmacy that's, like, possessed by the game designers that tells you stuff.
Yeah, and, like, your own dog is also really funny. You talk to him, he just, like... I can't remember what he says, but every time I talk to him, I always thought it was funny.
Right. Like, I'd prefer the game to be its weird self and having me like interact with and meet characters that are just sort of inexplicably strange people. But every now and again, I kept getting discouraged because I would talk to people and they would just be like a joke instead of a person, or a message from the game designer instead of
Right.
a person.
I feel like there are few instances of the game breaking the fourth wall. Like, I don't think that it's a thing that this game should be known for the way that it is, because it's only a couple of times, and it's honestly not that much worse than what a Pokemon game does. Because
Well-
you could still find like the developers in a hotel room in Pokemon.
Are they referring to the ending though?
I've heard people just say that like, oh, like Earthbound's like a wacky game that breaks the fourth wall all
okay,
the time.
that's
It's like,
fair.
yeah. The ending is a
Huge.
pretty
fourth wall
direct
break.
fourth wall break. Yeah, that's something we'll discuss in its own segment, because the ending is kind of
Its own segment.
it's really huge in
Yes.
terms of your interpretation of this game. I don't know. This is like the thing that I'm just like kind of surprised that it turns out that I enjoyed this game. I think just generally more than both of you did.
Well, I really like it. I'm just fairly critical of it. I feel like if this game would have trimmed some of the fat and gotten to the point faster, it would be a lot better.
Yep.
But that's the thing that these games. This is a for its time kind
Oh yeah,
of.
for its time, I think if I would have played this as a kid, I would be one of those people that fucking loved this game.
Right.
Also completely agree, but I only agree with it not because I thought it would have been better by comparison, because again it can be compared directly to Chrono Trigger, and I loved that game even today.
Mhm.
But it would have been better when I was a kid, just because I wouldn't have cared about it just fucking around with me as much. I would have had more time to waste, so I wouldn't have minded that it was so slow in its progression.
Yeah, I agree that like a more streamlined version of this game is definitely something that would be desired if in a game that came out today. In a game that came out in 1995, I think that this is because games that came out in 1995 that weren't JRPGs were just like back-breakingly difficult in order to get you to play it for 30 hours.
Oh yeah, in its time, it could just reasonably assume that everyone that was going to play this game was going to be a 12-year-old with infinite time, so there was no reason for it to compress itself.
Right. And then this game, I have to imagine that this game, if a 12-year-old spent the amount of time necessary to complete this game, they would be, like, pretty fucked up by it. Because, like, man, even in, like, starting in the first... This is why I was so, like, kind of shocked that you weren't, like, fully on board with the humor in the game at the start. Because at the start, one of the first notes that I took for this game was, everyone in this game talks so much shit, and it's just wonderful. Like, you get every person that you talk to, barring, like, a few people, insult you immediately. Like, if you probably wet the bed, you fucking little baby kid.
Yeah, all the cops are like
The
douchebags.
cops are awful. If you don't buy something from the shop, they insult you and tell you to get out. It's like... the game, like, immediately starts... It doesn't want you to feel, like, comfortable and welcome in the world you're in. It wants you to feel like you're, I don't know, trying to accomplish something and are being, like, challenged at every... with every action you take.
I don't really agree with that insofar as you're interacting with adults. I think the way that they presented itself aesthetically, especially with some of the early music, really, the game wears its heart on its sleeve there, and how it's supposed to be like, dun, 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 dun. It's like really happy and colorful and bibbity boppity boo or whatever.
Right.
It was just very nice.
Yeah, I think it starts out at the very beginning, like when you go to the meteor, fairly representative of the game as a whole, and then after that, it like dials it back for like when you go through on it, and it's like way more lighthearted and casual and not as in its element.
Yeah.
I almost wish that the like meteor style lore was as weird as most of the time that you spend with the game ends up being, because that also, like, I was expecting it to also subvert something related to like the actual standard JRPG quest structure, based on how much people talk about the way that this game is subversive. But it mostly ended up being, again, when you zoom all the way far out, you're still just like, you're a kid on a quest to save the world, and it's just all the details of that ended up being like shocking and confusing and disorienting.
Yeah. The quest is, as far as quests go, you just save the world.
Yeah.
As is
and
expected of you.
It takes a dark turn at the end.
Yeah, you're a kid, you're the chosen one, you pick up a group of people along the way. Like, it's a whole thing that's been done a million times.
And you kill God.
And you kill God. It's a JRPG.
Yeah, collect treasures to gain enough power to kill God.
Right.
Rinse and repeat.
But, yeah, the game is about that moment to moment. That's all it wants to be about.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, one thing, I guess, on that, that we were discussing a little bit earlier, when everyone's, like, talking shit to you, the thing that it made me realize is that everyone in the game respects all of your other party members incrementally more than Ness. Like, everyone hates Ness at the beginning of the game, and then, like, everyone talks about how great Paula is when you get to Tucson, and like in Winters, everyone is like best friends with Jeff, and and then like Pooh he's a prince, like so everyone already respects and looks up to him,
and all the girls in the town talk about how
great Pooh is.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end of the game, and Giygas is just all about Ness, so it comes full circle.
Yeah, Ness finally gets his respect from the like bodiless,
amorphous,
gross spirit of an alien.
Tessellated demon fetus. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh god.
I mean, there's the ending, but as I described before, everything's just too fucking weird for me to like dial in and dissect particular parts or moments.
Actually, I did find it. This is a game that I found a bit of difficulty trying to like take notes on because it was so much about trying to absorb what the game was trying to give to me.
Yeah.
Like, I've spent so long with this game now, and in such like long chunks as well. Like, I played this game for like between 6 and 8 hours at a time.
That's gotta leave some impressions in your mind.
It made the ending really impactful, for what it's worth. But yeah, so we talked about the tone of the game a little bit.
There's a little bit about the mechanics also.
Right. That's something I kind of want to get back to, I think. Unless you had...
no, that is also one. I was actually going to run straight toward whatever decision procedure had to go through for them to choose that the background to the combat screen would be like a pulsing, crazy thing with synth music synced to it.
I love that, though. And actually, to just not do what we said we were going to do, sort of, the synth music, like, the music generally in this game, I think is pretty good, but there are parts of it that I think are outstanding, that really kind of like set it apart. And it kind of, because the tone of Onett is so like upbeat and cheery, like you said, like a Saturday morning cartoon. Mm-hmm. But then the first dungeon, which is just a cave, will do this thing that persists through the whole game, and I think actually starts in the meteor sequence, but in the meteor sequence everything feels a little bit like askew, where it'll be playing the music in the dungeon, but then it will just like hard cut, and it would just be the sounds of like somebody attempting to tune a radio. It's just that like high-pitched squealing with no tone or like melody to it. It's just like abhorrent noise. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of thing is what makes the game and the music in the game feel so fitting, because it makes you so uneasy, and a lot of the songs are really discordant, and they don't necessarily follow a good, like a catchy melody. They kind of drop tones and make things kind of sound out of tune, and it's really weird.
Dissonance.
Yeah, and it's really good. for that.
Yeah, I think the music follows a similar progression to the tone. Like, it slowly gets more and more weird as you go through.
The only really early hints at the kind of darker tones that the game will eventually hit are musical cues.
Right.
Everything else is sort of consistent in its Saturday morning cartoon, jokey self-awareness, except for the music that consistently, like you said in sequences like the cave, kept creeping me out at one point or another.
Yeah, like the My Sanctuary areas, like the boss fight music there and the cave music, and then the music afterwards when you actually collect the melody. That all has like a... You feel like you've stumbled onto something like bigger, like when you get to those parts, like you're uncovering like something secret.
Right. Yeah. The Year Sanctuary areas are just... Man, all the dungeons in this game I think are actually really good. But... Yeah, there's no segue for this. So what you were saying before. Before I pretty rudely interrupted.
You bitch. Yeah.
With the backgrounds. I don't know if you that just struck you as really weird. Obviously, I haven't played a lot of JRPGs, but I assume that most of them don't have kaleidoscopes going on.
No, most of them don't have kaleidoscopes. It's so many of the decisions are weird, particularly in context and the sort of things that it was comparing itself to.
Yeah. What's really strange about them to me is that the combat in this game is described as being in first person. You're supposed to be looking at the monsters from Ness's eye level, but why then did they make the background like a psychedelic tie-dye wave machine?
Because they had the problem, if they were doing it in first person, of having to consistently animate different backgrounds, and they were just like, nah, let's just make it like the stars. So they did.
Well, I mean, they could do what other JRPGs did at the time, which was have a default grass or dirt background. This is so much better than that in every way.
Yeah, I think they had to have just wanted to do something different.
Right.
And then through some force of creativity or whatever, they came up with that. I don't know if there's really something that you can trace to be oh, this is the reason why.
Yeah, this is the thing that they were trying to accent with this decision. You can with almost all video games.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just a haha, trippy acid dream. They were so high when they made this kind of thing. I think that's always the line of thought people tend to go when things are weird.
Yeah, it's the easy explanation of assumption, barring anything
someone
else.
Reads Alice in Wonderland, they're how high was Lewis Carroll and he wrote this. I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah. And the weirdness in other aspects of this game are so intentional in a way that it just it doesn't.
Why is your impression of people who don't like Lewis Carroll fat bureaucrats from England?
I don't know. I just did a voice, JJ. I didn't think about it. I was just really high. That's just what I came up with.
What's great though about the backgrounds, there's one that really stands out to me is in the gold mine, how all of the moles claim to be the third strongest mole.
Oh, yeah.
And they put number 3 behind them. So they're all numbered by the background, but it's always the same number. Not only is that a weird choice and emphasizes how strange the characters in this game behave.
Yeah, that was very funny.
But yeah, it was outwardly I laughed at that with my face. That was actually just really good.
What was the decision procedure for this game? Who said yes to this stuff?
Oh, what's the guy's name?
Itoi.
Yeah. He wrote all the dialogue. So it's very much his artistic vision.
Yeah, this game is very much his brainchild. He if you watch the credits, which you should, because it's the best credit sequence in a game ever. He is the director, writer, and producer of this game, and in fact does some voice work. But it's a SNES game, so it's all bit crunched and weird.
Yes.
But that's all, he did some stuff. Also, Shigeru Miyamoto played guitar in this game. like he did guitar sampling and was credited as some not his name.
Weird. I wonder why he wanted to hide that.
He seems like a humble guy.
I don't think it was his decision. I think
okay.
just because
There
the
you go.
band names are all like made up names,
So
and
they
he
just
just
made up a
happened to
name for
be
him.
one of them.
Yeah, it's,
No.
it's the second time I've heard about Shigeru Miyamoto playing guitar recently. He played with the Roots.
I know. I saw.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Which is the best thing
He's
ever.
fucking sick, yeah. So I'm assuming then that this guy's producer role is where he was able to sort of direct things and be like, what if you like just put a kaleidoscope in over here?
Yeah, it's just like I had this idea. I really want their backgrounds to be like kaleidoscopes.
Well, I can't imagine any other way to view Earthbound's like battle sequences.
Yeah.
Like just having a grass background or like a cave wall would feel so disingenuous to the tone of the game.
Yeah, it would have so much less personality.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, God, you probably, over the course of like the 30 hours it takes to complete this game, you probably are in like hundreds of battle encounters.
Right.
Mm.
And at no point did I like go like, this is getting annoying. Like, they made it well enough that it was a thing that I really appreciated and think is actually like a visual strength of the game.
Yeah, there was enough variety in them that they never like got old, and they were never like ugly enough to be an eyesore.
Right.
It's just impressive in this older age when all of these games still had these like very intense marketing concerns and you couldn't have the sort of like flexibility of the indie space that we have now, that someone was able to really mold pretty much almost every part of the game.
Yeah.
Well,
a specific weird vision.
He was like a celebrity, so I think
He was at the
Yeah.
time?
He like walked, when he pitched Mother, he like walked into the offices of Nintendo like he was invited there for some reason or another. And he somehow got the ear of Shigeru Miyamoto and was like, I got this idea for a game, here it is. And he was like, no.
yeah, apparently yeah, Miyamoto just said no to him,
Yeah.
and apparently he cried.
Aww.
But what was it?
I don't want to hear about that.
No,
wanna hear
apparently
about-
he had played like Dragon Quest or something, and was like, I think I could do this better. And just decided he wanted to like make an RPG.
And this was his. And
And
this
this
was
was
the
his
better
idea.
that he had in mind. Okay.
Yep. And
Well, Mother 1 was.
Yeah.
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 he apparently he like voiced the dad in My Neighbor Totoro or something. Like he did work for Studio Ghibli.
Yeah. He just was like a general like celebrity in Japan.
He was just an influence man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. And apparently like the series sold well in Japan based like just on his name.
Okay.
Well, and because it couldn't sell well in America because the marketing was bad, and this game is not what would appeal to most, like, demographically speaking, children at the time who owned a Super Nintendo. Like, 1995 was like, games were still targeted mostly at pretty young people, and games that were targeted at older people tended to be relegated to the arcades. And so this game feels so out of place in that time. Like, it doesn't look like it should fit on the shelf next to, like, a Donkey Kong Country
Right.
and a Super Mario
Yeah, like,
game.
I don't want to like give the game too much credit for being like a masterwork of genius or anything when I
Right.
said it was ahead of its time. But like I do think it seems like an idea that plays better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite to the contrary of it being, like, a masterwork of genius, it was ahead of its time to its own detriment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it's
what
like-
I'm trying to say.
Yeah, nobody knew that it was anything that they would want to play. And I feel like it's only with this wider acceptance of games that we get people who can actually appreciate this.
I don't think Nintendo would ever do it because of like the series history. But like, I feel like if they rebooted the series or just made like Mother 4, it would be like really successful now.
Yeah. This game, Earthbound, was for the longest time, like since its release, I feel like it isn't now, which is, I'm not 100% on the stat right at the current time, but when it released, and for a while after that, it was the #1 selling Virtual Console game.
Yeah, it's like, just over the years, like, the reputation it's built up, and because people are like, who's this character in Smash Brothers?
Who is
like,
Ness?
enough people have, like, been curious about it that I think it's well known enough now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who's this character in Smash Brothers gave me my favorite series, so...
Right.
That's a good point, yeah. But that wasn't even until Melee. Ness has been in fucking Smash Brothers. Well, I guess the Earthbound was developed by HAL.
Yes.
So it makes some sense
Yeah.
that Ness was in the original Smash Brothers. But, yeah. He sort of started, like, a demand for the game that just wasn't there before.
I meant to look this up, but,
Mhm.
like, do you have any idea, like, why the moves in Smash Brothers are called, like, PK Fire?
Instead of Psy.
Like, in a PSI or Psy, whatever you
I
say it.
think that... I didn't look this up either.
Because
so
I've always
this whole
wondered
thing
that.
could be cut. But I am fairly certain that it's called PK either in just Mother games generally or only in the Japan version of this one. Because PK, in the context of Smash Brothers at least, stands for psychokinetic. And Psy is like an abbreviation for psionic or something.
Yes,
That
like
makes
psychic
sense.
or whatever.
Psychic,
Some
yeah.
psi thing.
Yeah, something to do with the
Science.
brain. But we can earnestly talk about mechanics and then probably move on to the ending after like a break, if you want to do that.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
And we'll look that up in the meantime.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. So, the last thing that we were talking about before we left was, well, specifically we were talking about the psi powers in this game. And that was, evidently, like, from a story perspective, like, you're just supposed to kind of know that Ness was born with psychic powers, and they don't actually explain that to you until, for like, the last 2 hours of the game. Which, yeah, it's an interesting decision.
Just go with it, man.
Yeah, we did look it up, by the way, and PK was just the Japanese name for it, and they changed it to PSI in the US.
Dude, psychokinetic's a much better like phrase anyway.
It sounds cooler.
It
Psychokinetic fire is just like a badass phrase, a badass video game phrase. But the way that the combat in this game sort of like plays out, right? You have a pretty typical JRPG party, I guess, because you have your fighter in Ness, like your mage character, and Paula, the like tech guy with Jeff, which is, I didn't know was a JRPG staple
Oh.
at all. And then like this game made me realize like, oh, like every single JRPG game I've ever played has this character in it. Because like Luca in Chrono Trigger and Riku.
All the Sids in every Final Fantasy game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who Sid is.
In Kingdom
I'm bad.
Hearts, he's
Sid
the one.
Highwind?
In Kingdom Hearts, he's the blonde one in the accessory shop with the toothpick in his mouth.
Okay, alright.
Is it every... They're not always a blonde guy with a toothpick in his mouth, but there's always a guy named Sid Highwind who's a mechanic in all the games. Like in 15, he's a fucking old, crotchety dude who owns
And
like
Cindy is his granddaughter.
Yeah.
Or his, granddaughter.
what is it? Like a car repair shop? Is there like
Yeah,
a...
it's like a garage.
Garage! That was the... They
That's
just
what
called
they
them
call it.
garages.
And he
yeah.
was like one of Noctis's dad's, like, Kingsguard or whatever they're called.
Right.
But anyway.
There's always Sids.
There's always a
There's
tech
Always a
guy.
Sid.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
a Sid.
So here's my question for you guys who are more experienced in JRPGs than I am.
Yes.
What role does Pooh fill?
Well, I kind of perceived him as, like, the fighter guy. Because, like, Ness seems like a jack of all trades, and he's, like, the healer.
Ness is sort of just your best healer, but Pooh also heals.
He does. He's got a little bit of everything, but if you like outfit him with all of his equipment,
Yeah.
Which I did this time.
he's like the DPS character.
Right, yeah. The protagonist is always kind of implicitly best at everything, or at least can be the best at anything.
Yeah.
Like most RPGs
This
have.
kind of was like you were pretty evenly like stacked up, but in my game at least Paula outdamaged every character I had by like 1 billion% for like the majority of the game.
Yeah, I feel
but then
like-
they just at the end of the game were like, Ness is like a super powered god with 800 health points. I'm like, oh my god, he can't die.
Basically.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
Yep. There's another JRPG stereotype of not really like the monk guy, but just sort of like the brawler guy, like the fist, I know how to do a takedown on you person.
Yeah, the kung fu fighter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the drunken monk kind of thing.
Yeah. They're not always like, serious. They're not always like actually literally know karate.
Like the Mr. Miyagi kind of character.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like very unassuming, but then he can totally kick ass.
Right, yeah. This might be like it's sort of a stretch potentially, but on Chrono Trigger, the blonde girl, was it Marlene or something?
Marl.
No. I think
No,
I'm confusing
because Marl's
characters.
a magic user. It's you're thinking of
from the history.
Yeah.
Her.
Her.
Cave
Oh.
woman. She is like
Oh.
also this stereotype.
Yeah.
Ayla?
Okay.
Ayla? Was that her name?
Yeah, that's it, Ayla. Okay. And also, the Mr. Miyagi comparison, I think, is really good because also Pooh is a little bit, like Mr. Miyagi, pretty racially insensitive.
Yeah.
The whole, like, city of Dalam is kind of uncomfortable in 2017.
A little bit. Yeah.
I give it a pass because of what they were going for,
Yeah.
but it's like it's a you're an old game pass, not like a this is okay.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, his name is just Pooh. Can we,
Yeah, you said earlier, like, this game has a general juvenile sense of humor.
Yeah.
That's what sprung to mind. And one of the main characters is named Pooh.
right. Where in my game, it was, because Ness, Paula, Jeff, and Pooh, and in my game, it was Chad, Andy, JJ, and Pooh.
Whoa.
Which one was I?
You were Paula.
I was Paula. Okay. I'll take it.
Jeff?
You're Jeff. Congratulations.
No one could be Paula.
Yeah, everyone wants to be Paula. I was Paula. Not really. But yeah, so as you go through, like, when you, assuming like an actual fight, not like something that you're either going to just blaze through without any challenge or get fucking stomped all over, which occasionally happens in this game.
Yeah.
Particularly by the end of the game when you have all four. I actually thought the combat was moderately interesting. Like, it was something that made me actually feel like I was making choices.
I agree, but I often have that feeling in a lot of late-stage RPGs. I mean, I felt that way by the time I was able to create, like, concrete builds with a party in Final Fantasy I. It was part of the appeal of the genre to me. Is there something that you felt like it did, like, different? Or is it just because you didn't have a lot of experience comparatively with these sort of things?
Well, it's mostly that I didn't have a lot of comparative experience, but also the fact that the beginning of this podcast, we kind of wrote the combat system off as not interesting, with the exception of auto-win, auto-fight, and the rolling health meter.
Right.
And the rolling health meter really is, like, the innovation in this game. Because the game just... It's not even, like... It's not rocket science. It is not like a miraculous discovery.
No.
It is just pretty cool. Like, it's more forgiving than having a character die, because having a character die in this game sucks.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Yeah.
I think what stands out about it, at least to me, is that, like, damage scaling in this game, like everything can easily kill you at pretty much any stage. Like, in a lot of JRPGs, you can usually, like, grind up enough in between, like, story points and basically be okay through the whole thing. But, like, this game, enemies were always threatening because they just did tons of damage.
Yeah.
And healing wasn't super reliable for most of the game.
It's strange. Normally, with these sort of games, they design that sort of like life and death curve, not around particular encounters, but around like entire missions. Like they try and the game, normally these RPG systems have some kind of way to control the amount of resources that you have that you can spend, whether it be on combat or keeping yourself alive or stuff like that, and then trying to create a situation that drains you of those resources gradually, which is why when you're playing like a more normal JRPG, you're having things that aren't really threatening to you that hit you for like a tenth of your health, but the idea is that you're going through a dungeon and that stacks up to a point where it'll be threatening, and then you can make the big guy look much more imposing because you have a whole lot of room where the enemy can become tougher without being able to just like murder you instantaneously.
Because it's drained your resources before you get there.
Yeah, and it's compared to the weaker enemies from before. The
Right.
idea being like, if the whole dungeon was filled with enemies that dealt a third of your health instead of a tenth of it, then that means you have less room to make the boss enemies stronger without it being overwhelming. Like if you could only have something like 2-hit kills you in a turn-based combat system. Like, if you go much farther beyond that, it's not really fun to interact with anymore. But the guy seems stronger if everything else you faced only did a tenth.
Right.
And this is something that also, I don't know which system invented it first, but this is something that's also wrapped up in a lot of modern, like, D&D design and structure and things like that. So it's very strange that this game sort of forgoed that and seemed to make the assumption that the resources are really plentiful, but each individual combat encounter is tough.
The resource management in this game is, albeit don't have a ton of experience in this area, is very different than resource management in other RPGs that I've played.
Yeah.
Because the item limit in terms of your inventory space is probably, like, for me, as I just discussed, Paula was more or less my DPS character, and even Ness dealt significantly more physical damage because I never spent the time leveling Pooh to like a reasonable point. Like Pooh, having Pooh in my party, that sounds so stupid. Now that I'm speaking out loud, his name makes it like way worse. Having Pooh in my party was mostly a boon just because he could carry more shit for me. Because this game has no scarcity in terms of money. You have like 2 instances in the game, maybe 3 if you decide to splurge when you're in summers, where you will be concerned about your amount of money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just have like way more money than you could even imagine using. And that like inherently was hilarious to me, to like the idea of in this game just being like, I'm gonna withdraw 20 grand from an ATM. That's so good walking around money to have.
You have tons of money. Even early game, the enemies drop tons and tons of like health restorative items, which is part of what breaks that loop that I was talking about earlier, because they just give you more resources as you go pretty consistently.
Yeah, it makes you seem so much harsher because of the wording, but I have abandoned a lot of cookies in my time.
Yeah.
I thought that wording was really funny as well. Like, you abandoned the thing that you're leaving behind.
Yeah. So you kind of like, you're not going to be terribly short on resources as long as you spend time to actually go restock. And that is, of course, where this became difficult. Because I did not want to spend the time going to stores and buying things.
Oh, yeah.
It was annoying to have to, like, call up the guy to come take your items away, like, to put in
Cargo
storage.
Express.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I never wanted to go restock, because I didn't want to have to put things back in storage and bring them back. But yeah, that like flow that we were discussing, where you go in and the individual enemy encounters are pretty difficult, but then the boss encounters, they sort of, having the regular encounters being difficult. I think the bosses sort of suffered for that in terms of difficulty, because I think your Sanctuary boss that gave me, like, really the only, like, main boss in the game, the cutoff point for me was Diamond Dog. the Carbon Dog, Diamond Dog, and then everything from that point on was ball-bustingly hard in comparison to everything before.
Yep, that whole last dungeon that ended with Diamond Dog and whatever dog.
It's Carbon Dog and Diamond Dog.
Carbon Dog.
Yeah, because he, like, I don't know, you put pressure on him and he becomes a diamond. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole dungeon was super hard.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough time.
Yeah, it had, like, the classic JRPG difficulty spike at the end, which didn't really sit right with me in this game.
Yeah, we've another trope that we've kind of grown past as time's gone on. We found better ways to solve those problems while still making the last thing that you do feel significant.
It's like, oh, well, now I have to stop everything and level up like 5 levels.
See,
or just try to brute force my way through it.
I did a lot of grinding to get the Sword of Kings. This time, because it's one of those things that's kind of like infamous about this game. They're like the ultimate weapons for each character are
drops.
1 in 128 chance drops from different enemies. And I mean they're pretty unnecessary. The only one that I got is probably the easiest one to actually grind for. Was Pooh's sword, and that it was like probably 40 minutes it took me to get. And my ex-roommate I talked to about this, and he said that it took him about 2 hours to get it. So I guess I got kind of lucky. But because of that, I went up about like 10 to 12 levels just in that one area. So I actually I felt the difficulty was actually it was on a good curve for me. I just found that Diamond Dog took longer to beat.
Yeah, I thought the game had a pretty good difficulty curve up until like the ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really hard in the first dungeon because they expect you to die.
Right.
And just do that until you grind up enough to actually be able to go through it. The woods, before you get to Happy Happy Village, are difficult. It is just difficult. And then it's pretty smooth sailing for a lot of the rest of the game. I don't know if it's the same experience that you guys had.
Yeah.
Until the very end.
We forgot to mention this, I think, when discussing about things that this game, evolutions that this game had relative to its peers. When you die, you keep your experience, right? It stays with you. And that was not true of most RPGs at the time, which treated death like a straight fail state and just reverted you back to a prior point in time.
Right.
This game sort of keeps it consistent somehow, because this game doesn't really care about consistency in ways like that.
Well, you really got your head handed to you, so so you have to retry. This game does not care about consistency, but that ended up being a crutch during the parts where you only have NES, is that you just bank all of your cash and just throw yourself into whatever the highest level enemies are
until you can
just kill them.
Yep.
And that always ended up sort of working. And I felt like, because I was really frustrated at the beginning because of that.
Yeah.
But then later, it kind of, that stopped being a thing you had to do when you had multiple party members. Then the only thing that was frustrating was having to revive Paula.
Yeah.
Because Paula can't ever take hits.
Yep. Yeah, that plays into like the pacing issues and everything.
They removed the annoyance of death by making death not a strict waste of time. Instead, they just made it like an extension of time, if that makes any sense.
Right. I mean, if you're gonna, because when you have to penalize the player. Traditionally, death is penalized with a setback in terms of progress, and that lengthening of the amount of time before you can push forward is just how this game chose to do it, instead of making it like a complete reset.
Yep.
Which is nice, I think.
I agree.
In comparison.
Yeah. And I mean, we already have the good solution for modern day examples of this, which is why make you walk back the full distance in the first place? The choices tend to be on a game-by-game basis now, and people are getting more creative with what you do with death, which is nice.
That's true. So we keep getting sidetracked by these other things that I think the combat itself while important to the way that this game plays, we keep coming back to things that sort of are tonal, and because that is like so firmly what this game wants to be. The thing with the combat system that I think was actually, because I said it felt like it was actually making decisions. How did you go about like an actual difficult regular enemy encounter? Because I felt like I had like an algorithm that I went through every time, and I don't know that should have been or is the case with other people.
It depended on how much how much psi power I had with all my characters. Because like, if it was a difficult encounter, I would probably throw shields up with Paula and Pooh, and then I would use like Ness's like strongest psi rockin' whatever,
Right.
and if I had like a bomb or something to throw at Jeff, I would throw that, and then after that I would just like hit everything with the most powerful attacks.
Okay, so this is already like a completely different way of going about the game than I did.
Yeah, I want to hear your perspective here, because mine I think was pretty uninteresting. I hadn't had enough death loops in my playthrough, and was so worrisome about spending PP, especially with the presence of things that can steal it from you.
Right.
That I was super conservative and spent most of my time on like auto attack situations if I could afford it. So, what was yours?
Well, mine was kind of like that. Ceramist. My like round one of like every fight was just physical attacks except have Jeff spy, and I used Jeff spy on every enemy in this game over the course of a whole playthrough, so that I would just know every enemy's like psi weakness if they had it, because the offense and defense numbers don't really mean a whole lot to you unless you're really paying attention, because it's using the same like stat boost as your own, but like I don't check the status screen. That's for chumps.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't even like part of your history of I don't care about statistics. This is just like a feature of JRPGs. That stat screen is not there to help you make informed decisions on like a micro scale. It's there so that the game has a way to tell you that you're being rewarded, and for you to make sort of general decisions. Like, this guy's kind of normally the defensive tanky one, and they don't worry about trying to bog you down in fucking actual math.
Right.
They're just like, this is a high number, and this is a low number, and that's what you care about. So it makes perfect sense, and it's whatever they expect you to do. They expect you to just almost never look at that stat screen.
The stat screen.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Because I didn't. But a lot of the time, I would definitely default to physical attacks for the most part.
I mean, it depending on what it was.
Yeah.
Like, if it was something that like I felt it could easily kill me, I would just use some psi powers.
Well, Paula almost exclusively used psi powers throughout my entire
Right.
playthrough because she has a lot of PP a lot of the time, so you can sort of just do that with her, which is nice. I also found that like almost everything was weak to psi freeze.
Yeah, I found myself using that almost exclusively.
Yeah, psi freeze is just super good for whatever reason. They didn't bother making the other ones any good at all.
Well, fire could hit a whole line of enemies. So,
yeah, which was nice.
But thunder
was
just garbage.
Yeah.
Because like it only had like a certain percentage chance of hitting.
Yeah.
Because it's lightning.
Yeah, it was real strange.
High risk, high reward.
It wasn't even that high of a reward from my
No.
memory of it. Like,
I think it did more damage than the other two spells.
Like base damage or
Yeah.
whatever. So you have to be fighting something that didn't like resist it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or was it just weak to ice like everything was? With a chance to fucking solidify. Which is another, like, it's a tonal thing, obviously, because they all do things that other JRPG status conditions do.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the status conditions in this game are, like, could not stop crying, is feeling a little strange and, like, having a cold. Alright, that's just, I mean, it's flavorful, but it really kind of is good.
Mm-hmm. And, dude, fuck Diamond Eyes.
I never got Diamondized.
Really?
At all.
That
Me neither.
seems impossible.
I also avoided it completely.
Well, Diamond Dog has like a percent chance, and it's a high percent chance
Yeah.
to diamondize you when he bites you. And I got bit 3 times, and it never triggered,
like,
and I was like, this is amazing.
I think it was Giygas, too, has like a chance to diamondize you as well.
Yeah, when you can't grasp his attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happened to me a handful of times.
He also, that fight,
Do we want to move to the ending now?
is that a thing that we want to do?
It's a thing. I think we're ready. I think we've got enough courage and strength to...
Yeah.
We're filled with determination.
Yeah. So let's talk about the guy. Let's talk about
Earthbound.
Let's talk about Earthbound. It was released in 1995.
You've metacasted. Why?
So let's talk about how up until this point in the game, things have been weird and a little bit dark, and then a guy with a drill sound playing cuts your skull open and puts your brain in a robot.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you picked this moment, because I was worried that we were going to talk about the ending and skip this. This is definitely the true beginning of the darkness.
Yeah. I mean, there's the whole scene with Pooh, like, relinquishing his arms and legs.
Oh, dude.
Which is a little bit fucked up.
That's one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's super good. But it does, like... There are lots of things. The fact that you're fighting cultists at all, people outright talk about like dying and killing you and all sorts of terrible things. Mm-hmm. One of the first bosses in the game is just a dude with a switchblade. Like, that's pretty dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it slips
this moment
it in.
Really, like,
it's undertones the whole way until the ending.
Yeah, and it becomes so... It's just really, like, kind of vile in comparison to everything else. And it was, it affects you more so because of the juxtaposition just before.
And it works so well because it also has, like, been subtly building up to it, so it doesn't feel like it comes out of nowhere.
Right. But yeah, that scene starts a whole, like, I probably could have done without the, like, hokey robot sprites.
Yeah, well, and just for like anybody listening who may not have played this game, and I don't know why they would have listened this far, but whatever. The ending has, like, you learn that you need to go back in time to fight Giygas.
Right.
And the scientist who is Jeff's father, Dr. Andonuts.
Which is like, that, even there, you don't want to have, like, neurosurgery performed by a guy whose name is Donut.
Yes. But anyway, he invents, like, the phase distorter? Like, to send you, like, through
it's
time
the phase
and
distorter
space.
2.
Yes.
Because the first one was stolen by Porky.
Yeah, but apparently it can't transport your human body, so he takes your brains out and puts them in robots.
Right. That's phase disorder 3, which can travel through time.
Yes.
So,
just wanted to put that out there.
And it's like, and the whole thing is like, the thing is shaped like a Mr. Saturn, which is like a big nose, little squat thing with a bow in its hair.
Cartoon spaceship.
And it's so like, it is a fucking cartoon spaceship, and he's just like, we're gonna need to cut your brains out. And then he follows it up with just this scene of each character on their back, and then it's just like, implying that they just, and I don't know what happened, because, okay, I'm gonna riff on this, and we'll come back and talk about that whole area, because it's really good.
Yeah.
And we'll even skip the final boss, and we'll come back to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the game, your souls leave the robots and fly back to your bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Brain's in the robot. Where's your brain at, Ness?
In a robot.
Brain's in the robot in the past. Like, what? Also, fuck it. It's really weird and it's gross, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's like physically uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They accent it so strongly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god.
Yeah.
How did that? Oh.
And then you pop into the spaceship. You go back in time, and if you're me, you then call your dad.
Oh yeah.
From the past. To save the game, which is odd. Mm-hmm. And then this next area contains pretty much everything that I hate in like one stretch.
Ball-bustingly difficult enemies.
Yeah, all these enemies who explode when you kill them, you want to save the PP because you know you're going into the final boss, and I only have so many brain food lunches to eat when I get there. So I ended up save stating. This is something we need to talk about.
Yeah.
The Wii U version, which we all played because we don't have like a couple $100 laying around each for a Super Nintendo copy, has save states, and I didn't use them a ton through the whole game. Mostly just like in place of saving, so I didn't have to go find a phone or whatever.
I pretty much used them in any game I've played on the Virtual Console. I've used save states instead of just saving.
Right.
Yeah.
But in this game, at this point in the game, I save stated like every time that I beat an enemy. Because if some bullshit happened, I would just load and try again.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah. Because the last area was just incredibly difficult.
Good visual design of that area, at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's... Okay, I think that the middle part, like the couple of legs of that area where you're just fighting Starmen and the exploding dudes and all that garbage, is kind of weak comparatively. It's the part... It is the hallway before the hospital in The Last of Us for me.
Okay.
It is a thing that I feel like is not necessary. They could have lopped it off
Yeah.
and the game would have been fine.
Okay.
Because the area before that, where you get your brain sawed out, is great. Because it's like that weird disconnected area that you can actually get to the other side of from the prehistoric valley if you wanted to. And it has that, like, weird, dissonant, like, occasional horn sound.
Yeah.
And it's like the Mario Paint horn as well. Because it's just like... Bah, bah.
Yeah.
And then a long pause. And then you get to the other part, and it's a little bit, certainly not upbeat, but it's like, it's more consistent, and it felt like kind of a grind.
Yeah, it's just supposed to kind of look like a primordial wasteland, I guess.
Yeah. Which, you know, it was.
Yeah.
I'm a general fan of Primordial Wastelands.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you get to the organ bridge.
Yeah, like the intestines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you conceptualize that as a bridge or as a cave?
It's, I believe, a cave. Like, the way that could you enter it through a cave?
Yeah.
Vagina?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be a bridge in a cave, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
Right. Because it's like blackness underneath of it.
Yeah.
It's just a walkway.
I perceived it as like a platform that I was walking on.
Right. But it's like pulsating and shit.
Yeah.
The whole...
Platforms can pulsate.
Yeah, it's like walking in a bounce castle.
You know, platforms, that abstract concept, it can pulsate if it wants to. That's fine. The whole, like, womb level of this, because this probably is, like, the most explicit version of that.
Is this the first womb level? Just, like,
Probably
historically
not.
speaking?
I can only imagine that it isn't the first womb level, but it is probably one of the most distinctive.
Oh.
It's the wombiest level.
It's
so
probably,
like-
if there's like a list of womb levels, this is like number one.
Number one,
on, like, all of those
number
lists.
one womb,
Yes.
Earthbound.
Or mother. Number one
Yeah.
womb. The number one womb is mother.
Mother
Right.
too.
Well, see, this is the thing. I heard. So this is the first time I experienced this. Like walking up to this and then seeing fucking Giygas. That is horrifying. And it is horrifying in 2017 on a Wii U, the Lego play place of video game consoles. I've heard for years, like, people be like, oh, there's, like, hidden symbolism in the Giygas fight. There's nothing hidden about the symbolism. The game is called Mother.
Yeah.
You walk in, basically, like, into a, like, Giger-esque horror wasteland that is, like, clearly organic. up to a thing that has, like, the image of a fetus in the negative space.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes more and more obvious as it goes through.
Mm.
I feel like there isn't any real subtlety here.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the average person wouldn't even notice the fetus, though.
Yeah, it's certainly subtle by comparison to
Everything else.
yeah,
But to being shown an actual fetus?
Yeah.
Like, if they just put a photograph of like,
That would be pretty terrifying.
yeah, I mean, it would be, like, super gross, but it already is gross.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm talking again of its historical context, like in comparison to the kind of stuff that you would expect from Final Fantasy VI. Like,
That means nothing to me, so...
You wouldn't expect to fight a fetus monster.
you wouldn't expect to
Right.
have to look into the negative space of a horrifying
Yeah.
ghost image to see a fetus monster.
I think that's the thing, though. The reason that they chose to... Well, first of all, I found this out. I didn't know this when I played it the first time.
Yeah.
That is actually a sprite from Mother that's just been, like, put in a blender or something. Like, it's a sprite that looked like a thing, but it's been, like, warped and twisted into that shape. And so, but the fact that you don't know that, and that's not what you're looking for. Obviously, you see, like, the tormented face that's, like, part of one of the,
Oh
like,
yeah, that's
twists.
that's the great part about the progression to that fight is because it zoomed in so far initially that all you see is the tormented face, and that's
Right.
what you assume is the thing.
But then it starts to... Well, it starts to, like, put you, like, putting a magnet on a CRT, like, go into all kinds of weird shit. But that's, like, way late. I feel like it's so abstracted that it's difficult to sort of focus on one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like it's like a magic eye. Some people see
Yeah.
the fetus, other people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
guess it makes
exactly
sense.
like that.
So you fight this,
Yeah,
Mm.
and they do.
and Pokey's around,
Yeah, this is very much a JRPG
We haven't
boss
even
fight.
mentioned Pokey yet.
which is good because I don't think Pokey. I don't even really know why Pokey's around.
He's there because they can't put the big bad in the game to drive you forward, because his, like, Giygas' reveal is sort of a big deal.
Yeah.
Probably the most impactful thing in the game. So Pokey's a stand-in.
Sorry, when I mean around, I meant like at the ending. Normally, when
It's
people go
so-
through these progressions, the like fake final boss is like dead or gone before you deal with the
I
actual
think
problem.
It's so that you feel like you have a personal stake in the final battle. Because, like, Ness has never met Giygas, but he does have an antagonistic relationship with Pokey.
Right.
So going into that fight, like, it's more of, like, a character motivation.
I would definitely be willing to believe that. In terms of the game's, like, plot itself, he's there because he keeps retreating further, like, as you progress through all of the, like, lines of defenses that he's set up. Pokey's still trying to be the, like, surrogate mastermind, where he is sort of walking out whatever evil plans they want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've just cornered him, and that corner happens to also have, like, the disembodied mad consciousness of an alien being with psi powers in it.
It's a good corner.
It's a great corner. It's one of the top 10 corners.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's really the whole reason. I don't know why he has, like, a spider mech suit. Like, that was sort of out of nowhere, but also at the same time, like, kind of expected in a way. Like, expected in as much as you can't expect anything normal once you walk into that cave.
Yeah.
Really, once your brain gets taken out. Like, at that point, you're like, bets are off. If the bets were, will I leave my brain in my head for the whole of this game? I probably would have said, yeah, I think that'll happen. I already lost that bet. So we're just gonna roll with what this game throws at me at this point. But how did you think about the fight? What did you think? Not how did you think? What did you think about the fight itself?
It's pretty normal within the first two stages. I managed to somehow keep myself pretty much entirely spoiler-free on Earthbound, except for the existence, but not the details of the womb level.
Right.
So I didn't know about the prey stuff going into it. and I'm glad that I discovered that organically, which is the boss's thing that could have happened. It was like attempt 3 at that, where I was just like, pray.
This is where the save states came in handy, because I didn't know about the pray thing either, and died about 4 times. And if I had to have gone all the way back, I would have been real upset.
Yeah, I had that same experience.
Yeah. So I save stated in the 3rd stage, and then I save stated again after I used my, because I'm stupid, or I didn't know about this, so it's not really my fault, don't blame me, please. Paula was holding all of my life horns. And so if she died, I had 1 that I could use, and then if she died a second time, good game. There's nothing I could do.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to save state after every success, because he can use PK Flash, and you can just die instantly.
Yeah.
And that is really rough. But other than that, like, if they just didn't do that, that 3rd stage would have been, like, perfect. Like, one of the best boss fights in video games at all. But they gave him the ability to instantly kill the only person who can do anything to him at random, and that just makes it kind of a downer.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I don't like that Pokey is present at all during any of this madness. He seems conflicting with the tone. I don't like that I'm in this, like, nondescript horror space, and then just fucking, like, fat, spider, annoying guy sort of pops in to be like,
because of, like, the vending machine from Bioshock shows up. It's like, because of the way that Giygas is rendered, and Eve's the whole background this time. Maybe he's been the background the whole time. That's why it's all fucked up.
oh no.
Oh, man.
It looks like somebody just pasted a picture of Pokey on the right side of the screen.
Right.
Like, it's like a fridge magnet that they stuck onto Giygas. They're just like, that seems fun.
It probably would have been better to have him as a boss before you entered the womb level.
Yeah. Yes, exactly that. Just do the first stage outside the cave. And then do the 2nd and 3rd stages inside. Yeah. And put, like, a telephone bird there or something.
Make the eye stage be like the entrance.
Yeah, that would have been great, because that would have prevented Pokey from seeming really out of place and weird. It would have given you a chance to, like, heal up and restock before the 2nd phase, which can be, like, brutally hard if, like, any one thing goes wrong.
Yep.
And then you get the cool 3rd phase thing.
And how about the 4th wall break? How does that land with you guys? I'm curious. That Paula prays directly to you for help, the player.
Home run for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it worked really well.
Because I didn't know about it.
Me neither.
I was really surprised, actually, because of how intense that lead up is, because you know you can die at any time. I was actually like because it's random chance. This is probably why they did it, actually, now I'm thinking about it. Because it's random chance, I'm literally thinking, please don't get that attack. Like, please, I am praying.
Please, God. Don't let it land on that
on
attack.
PK Flash. And then it was like, Chad's praying, and I was like, fuck, they know.
Yeah, that was clever. Like, they ask you to put in your name twice.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm like, what kind of quirky shit are they going to do with this?
Right.
And then, like, it's still, like, totally blindsided me.
Also, did you guys put in your actual names?
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did this time, considering my history. And like, it wasn't like...
Farts.
Yeah.
It's all a parade to farts.
Parade. And then, like, --R parade. I'm like, oh god, why? It's like, fart parade as hard as you can. Yeah, that would have been unfortunate if I had chosen to do that. But yeah, overall, I thought it was super great.
Yeah,
I like also the like epilogue sequence after that where you just fucking go home.
Yeah,
that's a really great tone down that a whole lot of stories generally
would have just skipped over
for good reason. But in this game, it sort of regrounds everything, and it helps to make you even more confused about like which parts of the journey are real or not, and loops everything back around to the whole mother connection.
It's nice closure, yeah.
Oh, that is actually, like, you can wander around
The whole
world,
yeah.
as much as you want at that point as well.
Yeah.
And apparently there's, like, a lot of, like, cool shit that you can find, but because cast game, I didn't want to take the time to do that.
Oh yeah, of course. And I'm highly skeptical anything you find is going to be better than that ending sequence.
Probably not, but I know, like, I've heard that, like, almost all the NPCs have, like, new dialogue.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just there if that's a thing. Because, like, you could do the ending, put the game down, and just, like, leave, and then come back the next day and be like, all right, now that, like, I'm cooled down, we can just go talk to all these people. I don't want to talk, because that's, like, that is a lot of stuff to do that I'm probably not going to... I wouldn't do that if it was a game that I was playing on my free time for fun. I wouldn't bother. And I think that whether or not this was a cast game, I feel like I really did spend the time with it to enjoy it. More so than you guys seem to have expressed that you felt like you were kind of rushed to get through it.
I mean, I also have, like, the crushing realities of graduate school.
Yeah.
So, right down to you constantly.
I had extra time. I just have been trying to stay ahead on cast games so I can play other things in my free time.
Yeah.
Still, even accounting for that sort of pressure, keeping us out of getting into the flow state that the game seems to want you to get into, it was still almost completely for me just an upward curve, you know, on my enjoyment graph.
So I don't want to, like, belabor the ending point, but ending's really good. You get that nice like credit sequence where it shows all the characters and shit, and it's like Super Mario World. They like give names to everything, which is nice. And then super catchy song, and then they show you all the pictures that you took, which apparently is divisive in the community. People hate that guy because you can't, like, decline it. So, like, you'll just be walking like, bam, 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 bam.
I like it. I just don't like how long it takes.
Yeah, it takes a while. Also, every time that it happened, though, I, like, panicked for a second because, like, I wasn't sure what was happening.
Oh, okay.
And then, like, he would spin down, and then I would just crack up over it because, like, it always took me out.
I also thought it was weird that, like, the other characters don't do anything. Just like just Ness poses for the picture. Everyone else just stands there.
Jesus Christ!
They're like, we're sick of this guy too. Breaking the fourth wall again. Also, can I just say that I find it weird that a game... This is, like, the last thing that I'm going to say about this, and it's real dumb. That a game that was produced in Japan barely made it to America at all, is basically set in America, and also has enemies that are street signs that literally say Ohio on them. Like, what a fucking banal street sign to come attack you. Also, no explanation as to why inanimate objects attack you in this game anyway.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to No Clip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Overwatch.
It's a little game you might have heard of.
Yeah. It's a little game that I've been playing consistently over the course of the past... since last May. So,
that means we're going to have more opportunities for 3-man...
to play Overwatch.
Yes!
Until then, if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so. All of our contact information is on noclippodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter, email, Twitch, YouTube. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys on the flippity flop. Dog.
Nope. Not happening. Do it again. Stop making this acceptable with song and dance. I'm being overrun.